I'm sorry. If you look at this program, all these customer exits will be called as call customer with this statement. And the letters from A to X are reserved for SAP. So if you see any program or anything that is starting with any alphabet from A to X, then that's a standard SAP program. So this is which one? 001. So here if you see. So if you look at this function module name, it's starting with R. That means it's a standard SAP program. All the customer development should take place in customer namespace, that is Y or Z. If the program name is starting with Y or Z, then it's a customer program. So that's why if you see this program when I created, I started the name with Z, right? Because this is the customer namespace. If I don't start the program name with Y or Z, then it will ask me for an access key, because the system will assume that I'm trying to create a standard program, standard SAP program. So all the customer development should be in the customer namespace. That is, they should start with Z or Y. And when you upgrade the system, all the Z programs will not be affected with the upgrade. Right? So at this point in this main program, this is a main program starting with R. They are calling something called call customer function. Right? At this point, they are calling this function module. They are exporting some data. It's importing some data. Right? Now, this function module here, if you see, has a Z include program in it. So I won't be directly writing my code inside this function module. I'll be writing whatever code in this Z include program. Now, since this is a Z program, this is in the customer namespace. So this won't be affected by the upgrade. So you can only use these enhancements if they are provided by SAP, and SAP provides these enhancements this way, where they'll be calling one function module. Within that function module, there will be one Z include program. So you'll be writing your code in that Z program. So when this main program runs, that function module will be called, and that when that function module is called, your code gets executed. So since the code you're writing is still in the customer namespace, your changes would not be lost when you upgrade the system. Okay?
Okay, so you mean to say if the function module is also a standard one and doesn't have any Z program or Z functionalities over there, means we need to create a new application, right?
Either you create a new application or you have to modify it. You cannot enhance it.
Okay.
Okay. So it's not mandatory that every standard SAP application will have the options to enhance. They are available only if SAP has anticipated. If SAP felt that certain organizations want to do things differently, let me leave an opening, only then we can use those openings. If SAP is not providing the enhancement, then we cannot do anything. The only option we have would be either to modify the standard application or develop our own application. Okay? So it's not mandatory that every application should have some enhancements available.
Thank you.
Please lower your hand if you're done with your question.
Hey Kiran, I was wondering if you could also display the transaction name as well as your explaining the SAP sessions, please.
That's okay for this session, as long as you're understanding the concept, that's sufficient. Obviously, I would
that
be
will help us revise
I would be telling you
cool.
all the
Thank you.
transactions I use when I start the review process. Sampath?
Yeah, Kiran. Usually, if we won't be modifying the SAP standard programs. Is that what you're saying? Is it?
Generally, we don't prefer, because as I said, if you modify the programs, when you upgrade the system, all your changes would be lost. So that becomes a big headache. So once you upgrade, you have to come back and reapply those modifications. So if you have done too many modifications, it becomes very difficult to manage your software. So that's why we avoid modifications.
Yeah, so if the function module is available, then you will go for the enhancement. Otherwise, you will go for the customized program.
Yeah, if I have the enhancement options available, then I would prefer enhancing it. If they are not available, and I would modify. Instead of modifying, what we generally do is, for example, what I can do is, let's assume this is the standard SAP application, and instead of modifying the standard SAP application, what I can do is simply copy this application, copy this program. Let's say 1. I'll copy everything. So I don't need to rewrite all the code the standard SAP is providing, and simply do whatever I want to do in this copied program, right? So my user, instead of using this program, he'll be using this new program. So I don't need to develop everything from the scratch. I can simply copy the standard program and then make the necessary changes in the copy so that the standard program still remains intact. Right?
Okay. And one more thing, the customized program starts with name Z. What about Y? What is the difference between Z and Y?
Generally, the production programs, we use Z. For test programs, we use Y.
Okay.
Okay, so both Y and Z you can use. So in a company, when you develop new programs, we use Z. But if you're creating some test programs, then you can use Y.
Okay.
Atul? Atul, your voice is very faint. Could you speak a bit louder?
Okay, Kiran, wanted to ask you if you make any changes in standard function module, or you just copy your function module and do your changes?
Again, anything standard, if you are modifying, if you change the code, then it's called modification. So once you upgrade, even those would be lost, right? So modification need not be only to a program. It could be to a table, a function module, anything. So we don't prefer modifications. So if there are no enhancements, the other option I would look at is try to copy the program and make changes in my copied program rather than changing the main program directly, the standard program directly. Okay. Basha, you have a question? Kaushik?
Yeah, I would like to know about this function. Just told about function something, a standardized function whichever. Can you please tell a little bit about this function?
That's okay, don't worry. No, for you to understand what is a function module, there are so many other things you need to know in ABAP, so ignore it.
Exactly.
I'm just trying to tell you that this is how you can provide a functionality in the program. Either I can maintain the logic directly, or I can call something called a function module and maintain the logic in a function module. So
okay, like in other programming languages, this particular program also has a main method or a main function, something like this.
yeah, don't worry about all that technical aspects. Just try to understand the concept. Have you understood the difference between modifying something and enhancing something?
Yes, I got
That's
that.
enough. Yeah, that's sufficient for now. Okay. So as I said, I cannot discuss anything about ABAP because there are so many other things you need to know before I can talk about these function modules or anything I'm using today. So we'll be discussing all this in detail later when the time comes, so don't worry about it. So that's the basic difference between modifying a program, developing your own programs, or enhancing a standard SAP program. So I hope that part is clear for you. So to do any of these things, as you have just seen, you need somebody who understands ABAP. Now, that's where we pitch in as an ABAP consultant. Since every company will be customizing the software, many companies, like in our company, we have up to 30% customization. That means we are using 70% of what is provided by SAP, and around 30% we have customized because the standard SAP functionality does not meet our requirements. Then few companies have up to 70% customization, like Nestle has almost 70% customization. So depending from company to company, it varies how much customization you need. But every company will have some customization. So since every company will be customizing this standard SAP software to meet their requirements, that means every company needs an ABAP consultant, right? So as an ABAP consultant, every company needs an ABAP consultant. There won't be any company which has implemented SAP and doesn't require an ABAP consultant, right? So ABAP consultants are always required to maintain or to develop new applications or to change the existing applications. Other modules, for example, if you look at CRM, a company which wants to use CRM will need a CRM resource. If they don't want to use CRM, they don't need a CRM resource. But ABAP resource, any company which is implementing SAP, they would need an ABAP resource. So here you can see modification, you're directly modifying the program. In enhancement, you're adding your code to the standard program using the openings provided by SAP. So you're not actually modifying the program, you're simply adding your extra code to enhance the program. So that's what is enhancement. And customer developments, we do it in the customer namespace, so where you're developing something from the scratch. So modifications, changes to SAP objects such as programs and table definitions are called modifications. The repository delivered by SAP is not only extended but changed. When you next upgrade your system or when importing support packages, you will therefore need to check these modifications against the repository. Okay, so I said we don't generally prefer modifying the programs, but there is one situation where we don't mind modifying these programs. That situation is, for example, let's say I have implemented this SAP software in India. My company is in India. I'm using this software in India. If the change that I need is specific to my company, then SAP doesn't provide any consulting services. So I need to recruit an ABAP consultant who can either modify the program, enhance the program, or create a new program, right? So if the change is specific to my company. Now, some law has changed in India, and that has affected all the companies that are running in India. So the change that we need to the program is not specific to a company, it's specific to a country or a region, wherein all the companies running in India would need that change in their programs. In such case, SAP releases these nodes or support packages, wherein they'll be implementing those changes in the program and they'll be releasing it. In that case, you can modify the program to implement whatever SAP has recommended. So if SAP itself is telling that there's a bug in this program which we have delivered, please change the code at this line number to this line, then I don't mind modifying because SAP is including that in their release. So when I upgrade, the new program would anyway have those changes in them. So I won't be losing anything. So in that case also we modify. So if the changes that are required to the software are affecting more than one country, one company, if it's a more region specific change, then SAP releases them as the support packages. You can think of it just like a Windows update. Once you install Windows, frequently you'll be getting these Windows updates. Whenever Microsoft finds some loopholes in their software, they'll be releasing these updates, right? The same way SAP also releases this updates as support packages. So if you have modified your programs, then you'll be losing all that when you upgrade the system or when you implement these support packages. Enhancements. In this type of change, you add customer-specific objects to the repository. There are specific places in the coding known as customer exits. We have user exits, customer exits, bodies. All these are different enhancement techniques, which we'll be discussing in detail later, where you can supplement the standard SAP system with your own objects. And there's also one modern method for the customer-specific enhancements called business add-ins. That's bodies. So we have user exits, customer exits, bodies, enhancement points, enhancement spots. All these are the different enhancement techniques that we use to enhance the standard SAP software. So how this opening is provided is what differentiates whether I call that a user exit or a customer exit or a body, right? So these are your enhancements. As I said, we'll be discussing these enhancements in detail later. There are so many other things you need to know before I talk about these enhancements. Then customer developments. In the SAP system, you can create your own repository objects such as tables, programs, transactions. You can create pretty much everything that you want in the SAP system. All customer developments normally take place in customer namespace. The only restriction is the program name or whatever you're creating should start with either Z or Y. So all objects created by customers should start with Y or Z. So that's your customization. So these are the different ways in which we customize the standard SAP software. So any questions so far on this customizing? Now, since we are running out of time, I'll quickly talk about the different types of applications that we'll be developing. Sunil, you have a question before that? Sunil, do you have a question?
Actually, this is regarding upgrading the system. So while we are upgrading the system, what about the Y or Z programs?
They won't be affected. because they won't be available in the standard SAP package, right? So only what is